Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. I hope all of you are fine and doing well. So, topic here we are going to discuss it is the comparison between oxygen and sulfur. That how do they differ from one another and what are their similarities. So, before the start of the comparison, the one thing we must know that what is oxygen and sulfur. Basically, the oxygen and sulfur both are group 6A elements, and these are basically non-metals, the non-metals that have the properties to gain electrons, and by gaining of the electrons they are changes into the anions, and anions are called as negatively charged ions. So this is a simple overview about the oxygen and sulfur. Both are group 6A elements and they contain 6 electrons in their valence shell, and they require 2 more electrons to complete their octet, which is the total gain of 8 electrons in their valence shell. So let's start its comparison. The first one, there's similarities between the oxygen and sulfur. Both oxygen and sulfur they have same outer electronic configuration of valence shell, which is ns2 and p4. Then if we talk about the oxygen, its atomic number is 8. Its electronic configuration is 1s2, 2s2, 2p4. And if you talk about the sulfur, its atomic number is 16, electronic configuration 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p4. So here this is the first shell K, this is the last shell L, and here this is the first shell K, L, and third shell is M. So in this valence shell L, you can see that it is containing 2 plus 4, 6 electrons in the valence shell, and again the sulfur contain 2 plus 4, 6 electrons in its valence shell. So both have the same electronic configuration for the valence shell. Both oxygen and sulfur are usually divalent. Divalent mean both contain need 2 electrons to complete their octet. So that's why after gaining electrons, they are changes into the anions like oxygen minus 2 as well as sulfur minus 2. On the other hand, both oxygen and sulfur exhibit allotropic forms. Sulfur and the oxygen both have their allotropes. Now, what does mean by the allotropes? If an element can exist in more than two different forms, then these are called as their allotropes, and its property is known as allotropy. So, allotropes of the oxygen are sulfur present in the nature. Then we have other some similarities between oxygen and sulfur. Both have polyatomic molecules. Polyatomic molecules mean they can exist in more than two forms, like oxygen has diatomic form O2 as well as it's also contains triatomic form, which is O3, ozone, while the sulfur has S2 and S8 molecules. So it also contains two forms S2 and S8. Both combine with metals in the form of O minus 2 and S minus 2 with the oxidation state minus 2. So the oxidation state is same because they contain 6 electrons in their valence shell, and by gaining 2 more electrons they acquire the charge minus 2, and they are changes into the anions that are negatively charged ions. Then they both combine with the non-metals and they form the covalent compounds. When they are going to make the bond with the metals, then the bond is basically ionic in nature. But on the other hand, when they're going to combine with the non-metals, they form the covalent bonds like example of water, in which oxygen is present in the center and the two hydrogen atoms are attached to it. It is present in the hydrogen sulfide form. Here we have sulfur and two hydrogens are attached to it. Carbon dioxide, in which both oxygen are attached to the carbon. We have its CS2 in which the sulfur atoms are present to the carbon atom on its two sides. Both are typical non-metals in nature. Then both are found in the free and combined states on the earth crust. So we have already learned about the occurrence that both are present in the nature in free and combined state, the atmosphere as well as in the different combined form with the different types of the elements. After its similarities, here we have the differences between the oxygen and sulfur. Now the number one difference between oxygen and sulfur we have, there are two allotropic forms of the oxygen, which is O2 oxygen gas and O3, this is ozone. And we have three allotropic forms of the sulfur, which is rhombic, monoclinic, and plastic sulfur, which is also called as amorphous sulfur. And its second difference we have, it is a gas at ordinary temperature, but on the other hand, sulfur it is solid at ordinary temperature, and the ordinary temperature here is almost 20 degrees Celsius or it is 68 degree Fahrenheit. The third one difference, oxygen is sparingly soluble in water, but sulfur is not soluble in water. So this is the basic difference between their solubility. The fourth one difference, oxygen helps in the process of combustion, but sulfur is itself combustible, that we can combustible or we can burn the sulfur because it is solid that is present at ordinary temperature. Fifth one difference is it is paramagnetic in nature. The word paramagnetic means it is attractive towards the magnet. On the other hand, the sulfur it is diamagnetic, it do not have any type of attraction towards the magnet. The remaining differences between oxygen and sulfur here. Seventh one difference, it does not react with the water. This is talk about the oxygen and this is the sulfur. On the other hand, when steam is passed through the boiling sulfur, a little hydrogen sulfide and the sulfur dioxides are formed. This means we talk about the steam. Here it's in the present form of gas. When it combines with the sulfur, it changes into the H2S hydrogen sulfide gas along with the sulfur dioxide. Then the eighth one difference is oxygen does not react with the acids, but sulfur it readily oxidizes by the concentrated sulfuric acid and nitric acid. So the two acids, the number one is sulfuric acid H2SO4 and the second acid is nitric acid which is HNO3. It can be oxidized by these two acids easily. The ninth one difference is it does not react with the alkalis. Alkalis are basically the bases in nature, so it do not react with the alkalis. So the bases like we have alkalis, sodium hydroxide, we have potassium hydroxide, and etc. But on the other hand, sulfur it does react with the alkali solution and form the sulfides and their thiosulfate solutions. And the last one difference is it shows the oxidation state -2, but on the other hand, if we talk about the sulfur, it shows a lot of oxidation states like variable oxidation states -2, +2, +4, and +6. And all these oxidation just depends to which compound or to which element it is going to make the bond and in which combination it is going to have the bonding with other elements. So this was all about today's lecture. I hope you guys understand, and if you have any queries, you may ask me about that in a comment section and I will get back to you guys soon. The next topic that we will discuss it is the contact process. So this is the basically process that is used for the preparation of the sulfuric acid. For that time, you guys keep learning and have a good day.